Jason Leffler was a racer. No matter what type of race car, no matter if the track was dirt or asphalt, Jason Leffler wanted to race. But it was in open wheel racing that people first started taking notice. Jason won 4 USAC national titles in the late 1990s, so naturally his sights were set on the mecca of open wheel racing, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Leffler made the field in his first attempt and eventually finished 17th in the 2000 Indy 500, his lone appearance at the greatest spectacle in racing. With encouragement from Tony Stewart, Jason's focus shifted to NASCAR, first in the Nationwide Series with Joe Gibbs Racing, and then to Sprint Cup with Chip Ganassi in 2001. And he got everyone's attention winning the pole that year at Kansas. In 2002 and 3, Jason moved to the Camping World Truck Series, where he was a consistent front-runner and threat for the championship.
He comes out of turn number 4, and the MBNA Armed Forces Family 200 champion crosses the start-finish line.
After a short stint back in Sprint Cup racing, Jason returned to the Nationwide Series in 2006.
He will get his first win here at O'Reilly Raceway Park, and he will be the man that delivers Toyota its first victory in the NASCAR Busch Series. There it is, the checker.
Over the next 5 years, Jason would become one of the series' most consistent and popular drivers, finishing 3rd in points in 2007 and never outside the top 10 in the final standings. Appropriately nicknamed Left Turn, Jason was always quick to smile and have a little fun.
Now, I don't know who's driving this thing, but they thought it'd be funny, I guess.
Let's take a look at this. I think there's a paper cutout in here, but it's definitely, is that a...
I don't know who it is, but
with the haircut, I think that gives it away.
I don't.
The spike too.
He's one good-looking guy, though. I know that.
But this year, Jason returned to his roots, racing a winged sprint car on the short tracks he loved, a love only surpassed by that of his love for his 5-year-old son, Charlie Dean.
Coming into the 1980s, NASCAR was continuing its ascension into the major leagues. Unlike other sports, NASCAR did not have that one special event dedicated to showcasing its all-stars. That all changed in 1984 with a surprising announcement at the series' season-ending awards banquet.
The original idea came from a guy up in R.J. Reynolds named Jerry Long. Jerry was the president. RJ, and he wanted something different. He wanted to highlight toward the middle of the season an event that Winston's brand would sponsor.
They wanted something special, like the World Series or that type thing.
In the spring of 1985, a very select group of Winston Cup drivers are going to get the chance to go racing for $500,000.
Along with the announcement of the Winston All-Star Race, R.J. Reynolds also unveiled its new Winston Million promotion. An unheard-of sum of $1 million would go to the driver who could win 3 of NASCAR's 4 crown jewel events: the Daytona 500, Talladega's Winston 500, the World 600 at Charlotte, and the Southern 500 at Darlington. But one could assume that the million would go unclaimed, since only 2 drivers had won 3 of the Big 4 events in the same season in NASCAR's nearly 40-year existence. Or so they thought.
You know, our main objective was race each race. You know, we won Daytona. You know, you had to bask in that glory for about a half a day, and then you went back to reality when you came back to the shop. You know, we still went to Talladega and focused on A, to run well. You know, regardless, there's so many things that could happen and normally did happen at that point in time, but still, for us, we just focused on being prepared and being ready to race whenever we showed up.
With wins at Daytona and Talladega, Elliott dominated the headlines heading to Charlotte, overshadowing NASCAR's much ballyhooed all-star race.
I think that was just a point that it got lost in a lot of the stuff, and being it was a kind of a race that tailed another race that really didn't kind of fit into all that weekend at that particular time. I think it did get lost in all, and there was so much hype going on around the Winston meet at that point in time.
The inaugural Winston All-Star Race featured the 12 race winners from 1984, racing just over 100 miles for a top prize of $200,000. After the pomp and celebration concluded, it was time to race. Darrell Waltrip dominated the early going, but found himself over 3 seconds behind race leader Harry Gant following the race's only pit stop. And even worse, with less than 10 laps to go.
My goose is cooked. There ain't no way I'm gonna catch him in the lap on what there was, 20 laps to go, whatever it was, not very many. And Junior came on that radio and he said, Darrell, you wanna win $200,000 or you wanna win 50? I want 200, Junior. So you better stand on that thing, boy. I mean, it was like he had a whip. Like he was popping a whip right over my head.
Gant is on the bottom of the racetrack. It will be a drag race down the back straightaway.
I tell you what, this thing, all the money's on the line.
Waltrip jumped into turn number 3 with the lead.
Pretty well sums the competition up what Harry Gant told me after the race. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes Darrell. And when he passed me, I could have been parked up there in Taylorsville up on my roof. He said, that's how I felt.
Waltrip and the Junior Johnson team looked to have everything going their way when something happened that no one could ever have imagined.
He wins $200,000 and he blows up. Going in the first corner, he blew up. What a Hollywood ending.
I know people say every time we talk about the 85 race, oh, you clutched it, you detonated, you hand grenaded it. Trust me, I'm going down the front straightaway at Charlotte Motor Speedway and the bottom end flies out of the motor. You know, in the process of that motor blowing up, I might have gotten hurt if I'd have known it was going to do that. So I had no idea. I'm waving at the fans and all of a sudden that thing goes, parts are flying everywhere.
With the engine in shambles and the win in hand, murmurs of wrongdoing and a cover-up immediately came to surface.
Well, if you ask Junior or Darrell right now, they would look at you and say, it just blowed then. It did? Well, that's strange. I've never seen it before.
Here's the amazing thing. He and I, in his little motor shop behind his house, we sat out there night after night, grinding on rods, working on pistons, working on a crankshaft, working on cylinder heads. That engine was a special engine built by Junior Johnson for that race.
I know they said that I had Darrell to, rev the thing up and blow it up, but that's not true. It was a lightweight engine in every respect, and I didn't know if he'd make it or not, but I know that it outrun anything anybody had.
He said, this thing will blow up when it crosses the start-finish line. I said, you're right, June. It blew up.
Despite the excitement created by the All-Star race, eyes once again focused on Elliott's unbelievable quest for the million in the World 600.
We sat on the pole and led a lot of the race. We had a lug nut get caught in the caliper and it broke a brake line, and we lost a number of laps in the pits changing the brake line.
While Elliott meandered to an 18th place finish, Waltrip dominated for his first points-paying win of the season. But the weekend proved to be even greater in the grand scheme of the '85 season.
At the end of the year, when it really got tight and he had a big point lead, they were starting to have parts failures. And we started, I said, well, they should have taken some of that money they've been winning and buy some new parts and quit running them Kmart parts. Just whatever I could think of that would get under their skin, and it affected them.
He kept telling me I was number one a lot, but he was using the wrong finger, I think, most of the time.
As the season draws near, the screw tightens down. And all of a sudden you start thinking, boy, we've had a great year, but what if we don't win the championship?
Elliott went on to annihilate the competition in 1985, winning 11 races, including the Southern 500, to finally claim the Winston Million. But confident and cocky to the end, Waltrip applied pressure to the vulnerable Elliott. He captured his third and final championship with a steady, determined approach as Elliott faltered.
What mainly beat us was our own inexperience and a lot of racing luck.
And it all went back to what he learned Memorial Day weekend, 1985, in Charlotte. a weekend that saw the birth of NASCAR's All-Star Race and planted the seed for the unexpected to be the norm.
Rivalry that has been brewing between former teammates Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin over the last month or so has definitely created a stir in the Sprint Cup garage and among race fans around the country. But for many, what transpired at California crossed the line.
They touch!
Hamlin's back injuries will keep him sidelined for an undetermined amount of time, possibly brooding a payback for his newfound rival. But when the blinders are on, rivalries can become dangerous obsessions. There are some that have even crossed generations, such as Darrell Waltrip's feud with the Allisons.
Waltrip goes around.
He got penalized. He needed to be penalized, and he just spun me out.
He jumps up in front of me and backs out of the gas. There wasn't nothing I could do. When I hit him, then he comes over here mouthing off at me. But when you're Darrell Waltrip, it's okay, but anybody else, you're not.
But at Pocono, it turned volatile.
I'm sorry it happened, and it wasn't intentional. It just two guys trying to go in the same spot, I guess, and that happened. I hope he's okay. I'm sorry for him.
But the following week, with significant injuries, Davey Allison raced at Talladega, but only until the first caution, turning his mount over to Bobby Hillin. Injuries are a consequence no one ever factors in, especially in the heat of the moment.
Ernie Evans wins, and Rusty spins and gets airborne. And flips wildly right at the start-finish line, very reminiscent of his accident at Daytona.
I hate it happens, but, one of them racing deals. I was trying to get under him, and he cut down, and I'd already had my momentum up, and on the speedway, one tap, and that's it.
Like Allison, Rusty Wallace would be able to race the following week, but the impact to his 1993 championship hopes was insurmountable, and the Intimidator would go on to taste the spoils of victory. But perhaps the greatest example of a rivalry gone terribly wrong occurred in NASCAR's pioneering era, days when stock car races were held at local fairgrounds alongside thrill shows and demolition derbies. Treacherous times when events lacked most of the safety initiatives that we take for granted today. At that time, a unique rivalry formed between innovative car owner Carl Kiekhaefer and his former driver, Herb Thomas. The differences could not have been more stark between the aloof and driven Kiekhaefer and the quiet farmer-turned-champion racer, Thomas.
An honest, hard-working individual that saw something that he felt that he could do, and he felt that he could do it good, compete with the guys and outrun them most of the time. He was just so good, and I think that his confidence helped him to be that good.
Kiekhaefer was a flamboyant, I guess you'd say flamboyant person to people that he really took a liking to. If he didn't take a liking to you, he wasn't much for you.
So if you look at his Kiekhaefer's cars, I think they won like 87 or 88% of the times that they showed up at the racetrack. And he and my father were just like that. They kind of fed off each other. I mean, my dad was tough, and he was just right in there.
Race seasons during those days were marathons. With over 50 races ran in 1956, Thomas led the points over Kiekhaefer's new #1 driver, Buck Baker. With time running out, Kiekhaefer knew there was only one way to overtake Thomas for the championship: have more races.
The points was real tight between Herb and Buck. Well, Kiekhaefer come to Dad and said, "Don't you know this man that runs the Cleveland County Fairground?" I suppose they had done got up with NASCAR and got the okay to do this extra race. Now, that would be unheard of today. We got to have another race so our driver can catch up. But that's basically what this race was for.
As race day dawned, a sense of uncertainty came over Shelby Fairgrounds.
I went to that race in Shelby, North Carolina. It was only 30 miles from where I grew up. And I went there for one reason, was to see her hopefully win the championship. The other reason I went was to try to talk to Mr. Carl Kiekhaefer, and I wanted to see if I could get my name in the pot for maybe one day drive for him.
Just past halfway, with Thomas storming toward the front, he came upon Speedy Thompson, Baker's teammate. Then, disaster struck.
Speedy and Herb Thomas got tangled up, and Herb got wrecked pretty bad, and all this got hurt pretty bad in that deal.
This is basically where the wreck happened. This is basically where Herb landed, right in here. I'd say within 50 feet of where we're at right now is where this wreck was. But it took cars all the way up to turn 2. They was piled up all the way to 2. They was upside down in 2. It was a major wreck of that era.
I mean, the deck was stacked against him that night. There was no question about that with the number of entries that Kiekhaefer had in the field. And it was sad to see because he'd worked so hard to get to where he was and could have won that championship, but just didn't happen.
Baker's win at Shelby propelled him to his first title. Kiekhaefer would leave NASCAR forever at the end of the '56 season. Many believe due to his perceived involvement with the crash and its negative effect on his beloved Mercury Outboards brand. Most unfortunate of all, Thomas's Hall of Fame career virtually ended that night. The accident leaving him in a coma for a short time with a fractured skull, among other injuries. A dark chapter that brought this long-ago rivalry to an abrupt end.